Hello and welcome to the Mindset Michelle TV show. We're so super excited to have you joining us again for an extra special show. To everybody that keeps writing and sharing your feedback and your experiences, we're so super excited that watching the show, hearing these different incredible experts sharing their expertise is really helping you to build and keep creating that fabulous mindset for yourself. So today's guest is an extra special guest. It's Wayne Moloney. Hello, Wayne.
Hey, Michelle, how you doing? Glad to be here.
It's so lovely to have you on the show today. And I know that many viewers will be fascinated with the topic that we're going to talk about. So Wayne, for those that haven't had the brilliant opportunity to meet him yet, is a sales specialist. He's been working in the sales field for many years and supporting and helping other people to build and develop their sales skills, especially from businesses to businesses or businesses to clients, commercial clients, and helping people. And this is why I'm so wonderfully excited about talking about today, with that mindset, that shift in mindset for how you can support yourself and people around you to be more forthcoming with how you sell and what you're selling. But before we go there, Wayne, please explain a little bit more about who you are and what your background is.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Michelle. I guess I was a reluctant salesperson initially, and I say that because I started my career in engineering, and I go right back to, well, many decades ago, more than I'd like to admit, when I was a trainee engineer. And when we talk about mindset, I was working on a project for the small company I was with, and it was a special project of the managing director who owned the business. And I got stuck. And my mindset was, I can't just dwell on this. And I couldn't get to the MD because he was away at the time. So I was helping someone else. My mindset was, okay, go on and help someone else. His mindset was very different when he came back and saw I hadn't made the progress that he expected. And I think he might have been having a bad day because he really lost it, and he suggested that it might be better if I find a career somewhere else. Surprisingly, I found it in sales. A friend of mine's father was a Southeast Asian sales manager for a company, and he offered me an internal sales role, which I found quite interesting. And from there, I gravitated into an engineering sales role, and that became my career, one of marketing, sales, and business development and general management, and moved through roles of marketing director, sales director, through to managing director positions. And I've worked across, been fortunate having that sort of skill set and that background of being able to I've worked in Asia, Australia, Europe, the US, and right across a whole lot of different areas. So I guess it's been really good for me that I've made that leap into sales.
And I really hear there, so thank you for going through your background. And I really hear there that that serendipity, in a way, that what you were doing and thinking was going to help out actually led down quite a different career path. But you're able to use the engineering elements as well as then translate that knowledge and experience into the sales side as well.
Yeah, very much so, because I've always utilised lean, and lean is a process that was really credited to Toyota after the Second World War and getting their manufacturing back on track. But if we go back, it was really just another way of applying what Henry Ford did with the production line. But there's three real components to lean, and that's adding value at every point, and that's every engagement with a client. So your mindset has to always be right, so that when you engage with a prospect or a client, that you are making sure you add value to that engagement. The other was reducing waste. And then the third one is looking for continual improvement. And they're the three areas that I learned from engineering. And I've been able to apply that to all of the businesses I've worked with as a sales manager or sales leader, and also in the consulting I've done back into businesses to help them get the most out of their sales teams and deliver the best value to their clients.
And what an interesting and wide range of experience you've had then in that sales space. Before we go too far into the suggestions, though, I'd really love to hear because you have that engineering mind, the sales mind, and the marketing mind as well, what is it for you then? What does success mean to you?
Look, I guess in both areas of engineering and sales, success is about achieving a goal. It's about achieving something that you attempt. In engineering, it's about achieving the goal of a design that you're putting together and getting a successful outcome, or an outcome of that delivers what the desired output is. And it's exactly the same in sales. Your goal in sales is not necessarily like the old snake oil salespeople, which was just to get the money, but in my view, it's about delivering the best outcome you can for your client. So it's about achieving a goal or something you desire, or something you plan. And there can be steps, if you like, of success. So you may have a final goal in mind, and the ultimate success will be achieving that. But then there'll be steps along the way, and those steps are like opening and closing gates. You move through one gate, achieve that success, close that behind you, and move on to the next one. So yeah, so success to me is about that. And it's also something that changes throughout your life, and throughout the careers that you've got. I know when I left school at 17, my success, or what was going to be success for me, is very different to what it is for me now, some 6 decades later. So, it does change throughout life, but it's also always about getting the focus that you need, doing the planning, and then achieving what you set out to achieve.
I really hear that those steps, which obviously it's funny how it becomes clearer as you get older as well, about setting up the outcomes or the deliverables that you would like to achieve. And then I hear how you've had lean and other tools and techniques that have helped you to break that down into those micro steps or those smaller steps to achieve things. Would you say that that's similar for your personal side in life, that you similarly, with you personally, when you look at success, think about it in terms of working out what the goals are or the outcomes, and then working down to those steps to get there?
Yeah, it is, but it's probably not something I've done as well as I should have, or as well as I would advise my clients to do when I'm consulting with them, because I think a lot of us have a tendency to put too much focus on the work side of life and talk about actually getting a structure around that, where we fail to do it more in our personal life. And I think that's one of the areas that we all could improve in, is applying the sorts of structure and routine that we have in our work life to our personal life. Now, having said that, of course, as I've gone through life, I've had different goals, different objectives. When I first left school, it was about getting that first job. When I had the unfortunate, or rather fortunate, incident with the managing director back then, it was about, how do I move forward? Where's that next goal? And then once I got into sales, it was, how do I continue to develop that? So my success was measured differently along the way in my career. And from the personal side of it was, how do I fit those two together? And that became a real challenge, because I've been married twice. I'm still good friends with my first wife. But once my career started to take that path, our personal measurement of success changed. And, that's probably because we got married very young, but that personal measurement of success changed. And as a result, we sort of drifted apart. And, I do think, but you do need to make those goals. If we'd sat down with a lot more experience and knowledge and planned more around what we were doing, we probably would have got there together. Because as I say, we're still good friends, but I became too focused on the career side of things. I didn't have that right work-life balance at that stage in my development.
And I hear you, and I applaud you for having that level of insight now. And your story is not that unusual a story for people, and for people's life journeys in particular. With that knowledge and with that understanding, which I think is very invaluable, what sort of suggestions would you give to people, whatever their age now, to create more of that success mindset around having that work-life balance, having that understanding about the steps to get to where they want to go to?
Yeah, it's not easy, Michelle. I've got 4 kids. I've got 6 grandkids, but only one. The eldest grandkid is 12, and he's sort of at a point now where he's looking for some guidance. But it's so difficult to pass that on to the younger generation that, I always swore as I grew up I'd never allow a generation gap to happen between me and my kids like it did between my parents and I, even though we had a great relationship. It exists all the time. So it is difficult to pass that on. We talk about work-life balance, and I've got a good friend, Jules Natisco, and Jules is a writer. He's a storyteller. In fact, he goes by the handle Storyteller Jules. And he talks about work-life harmony and not work-life balance. And I must admit, when I first read it, I thought, oh, Jules, you're playing with semantics. But I then dug a little bit deeper, and I actually went and just looked up the definition of balance and harmony. And I'll just read from what I'd had there. And balance basically meant equal proportions or keeping steady, whereas harmony meant consistent, orderly, and pleasing arrangement of parts. And I look at it and think, well, I don't just want to balance my work and my life. I want to keep them in harmony, because sometimes, you need a little bit more out of the wind section than you do out of percussion, for example. So you need to bring them into harmony. So I think that's the first thing. Don't think of just work-life balance. Think of how you can bring work and your personal life into harmony rather than just balance them, because I think that term balance gives a little bit of a misconception.
I love how you're defining and you're explaining it in that way, the difference between balance and harmony. My star sign is as a Libran, and I recognise that most of the time I'm struggling to come back into balance when things are out of balance. And having worked with project managers and being a project manager, you have a plan, but then nothing kind of follows the plan. So you're out of balance with your plan. But I agree, you can still have harmony in that chaos. You can still have harmony in, I like that analogy of the orchestra with the wind section having, like more of a frontal piece, and then the horn section being stronger at different times. But that the harmony of it all syncopating and coming together is actually what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And I love music, and I'm quite eclectic in my taste, everything from heavy metal through to classical to jazz, and all of them, if you listen to them carefully, my wife hates heavy metal, but if you listen to them carefully, they've all got that harmony in one form or another, even though you may not immediately perceive that harmony if you don't appreciate the style. And you've got to do that yourself. That's why just getting a balance, one person's balance is going to be different to another's. That's why harmony tends to fit, I think, a little bit better in explaining what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think that key word there, harmony, living a harmonious life. And there are going to be times where you need to be more focused on work and achieving deliberate outcomes in work. Yeah. And then I guess a good example of that is when you first have young children, when you first have a baby. Your whole focus and your balance towards work is actually, you're actually focused on the newborn baby and the lack of sleep and things like that. So at different times and at different stages through life, it's about understanding that ebb and flow and that harmony of, accepting and going. That the Asian and our Eastern cultures have that wonderful thing about being like water and just going with the flow.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. My eldest daughter, she followed me into a career in sales and went into business to consumer. And she was working for one of the leading electronics retailers and was being fast-tracked through their management program. She was then headhunted by Telstra as one of the top 100 retail sales managers in Australia. And over that time, she had 3 boys. And after the last boy, she just threw it in and said, I don't want to do this anymore. success to me, and my words, not hers, but success to her then became spending time and helping the boys grow up and then maybe go into that later on. Whereas prior to that, she was very corporate driven, and very success to her was getting to the top of that tree in business, where that changed, as you say, as times changed in her life, as she became, a mother of 3 boys. That was her priority, and that was success for her. So it changed as she moved through.
I love it. And I think that acknowledgement is something that I wish I had when I was younger as well, of bringing more of that harmony into different activities at different times. I know when we're younger, we tend to be more party and entertainment focused. And that age, parents and older people are saying, save money, do this, do that. And so it's always like this, if I had have heard it more in a harmony way rather than a one or the other way, I think that would have connected much more.
Yeah, because I think, when you look at it balanced, you tend to look at, okay, that means I've actually got to block time out for one or the other. And that's not necessarily true. And I think people are probably starting to see that a lot more now, Michelle, after we've had the last few years of people having to work from home. And people are going to start to look at it and say, well, hang on, I just can't block that. Well, maybe I need that routine, but I need to balance that together. And we've seen some of the just the natural things that come out of that. With the BBC interviewer who had the kid run on during an interview with a government minister. I've been sitting here and I've had one of my dogs jump up on the table in the middle of an interview, and and you can't block that out. But if we look at it and we think, okay, well, that's just part of that pleasing arrangements of life, if you like, and a bit of harmony and a bit of less structure, and not feeling as though you are failing because you don't have that strict balance there that you might have. Okay, this is a work time. I think we've got to look beyond that these days.
I think that's a fabulous point about that separation of work versus home versus this versus that. And that, yes, with COVID and things moving online, a lot of that has shifted. It reminded me, I fostered a cat during COVID, and I got up really early one morning to do a charity workshop for this big American event. I was sitting there, everything all lined up, and of course I'm like this, talking to camera and chatting with you. And the cat decides to start walking around. And I was the same. Yeah. I was thinking, I'm horrified. And then I had to kind of reframe it, because I realized that we'd shifted now where everybody can determine what their version of personal versus private versus professional versus work versus this. And that now that you understood and you saw people's home environments, etc., that those lines and those artificial boundaries between this is my home life and this is my work life and this is my other life, that all of that had kind of shifted. And the more that we've gone online, it's shifted even more. Yeah.
And I think that's really important. And, I hope, I hope our kids, as they grow up, they don't revert back to that stricter, I guess, putting perimeters around work or putting perimeters around your personal life. You're not going to be harmonious in yourself if you're going to do that.
Well, I think that they will have different questions around, and different ethics and different problems, if you like, that they need to sort through and solve. That probably we actually probably don't even know of quite yet, because one of the things that I'm interested in is the mental health issues that have come out of a lot of this. Life is now a lot more online, and for children that haven't had all of that personal socialization for one reason. But I also really wanted to make sure that I asked you around the mindset to do with sales, being such an experienced salesperson. And I love how you brought the harmony information idea. Given that many people, for them, sales or selling, it is really quite a difficult thing. And in many ways, they may feel like they're going against their own personality type or temperament.
Yeah.
What using that harmony idea again, what suggestions for mindset and having a successful mindset would you give to kind of bring more harmony into some of that discord?
That's a great question, and surprisingly, I haven't really thought of it in that aspect, or specifically, if you like, in that aspect. But the first thing about selling is you have to believe, and I guess that's mindset. You've got to believe in your company. You've got to believe in the product you're selling and the value that it can deliver to your prospect or client, and you've got to believe in yourself. If you fail in any one of those, you can't really be harmonious, because you're forcing something that you don't actually believe in. And, that's all down to your mindset. I've worked with organizations where I was pushed to make a decision. I was heading up the marketing team at the time, and I was pushed by the managing director to release a product that I didn't believe in, and I didn't think was genuine, and I thought it was being not just disrespectful, but dishonest to the consumer that the businesses were promoting it to. It was a difficult decision, because I was young. I was in a pretty good position within that organisation. I had a mortgage, I had young kids, but I've fortunately had good relationships with some of the other C-suite members of the organisation, and I was able to go and vex my concerns and actually get them on side. So, that allowed me to be, I guess, harmonious in myself, or at least be honest with myself, and therefore be able to believe in my product and my customer and my company. If I hadn't, I would have been doing a disservice to myself, because I would have been losing belief in myself, and therefore my mindset would have changed. A lot of salespeople would have done that. They would have just gone out and done what they were told to do. We come back to, you're saying about, people not understanding selling. Selling is about, it's not about standing outside the reject shop when it's raining and selling umbrellas and just hoping you can sell as many as you can. It's about, especially in the B2B world, and as sales get more complex, it's about understanding the problems that a prospect may be suffering, and it's about understanding what you can do to help them overcome those problems or move the business forward and deliver. Come back to what I was talking about with lean, is deliver value to them, and that value can only be defined by the customer. So you need to be, through your interaction with that client, you need to be working to understand what those issues are, and you can only do that by having those strong beliefs and being open to the rejection that might come back the other way. So in sales, rejection is something that you just have to accept. There's an old saying that in sales you need an equal dose of empathy and ego, and you need the empathy to be able to sit in the client's or the prospect's chair and understand what they may be suffering and how do you help them. The ego is there because you need to be able to pick yourself up each time you're knocked down. And believe me, in sales, you lose, a lot of deals. So you've got to have the ego to believe in yourself, to pick yourself up and go back out there again.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard this explained so wonderfully and in such a really insightful way, and just unpacking a little bit then the belief in yourself, in the product and the company. And I really heard, as you were then talking about, how in that belief and in that mindset then that I believe in these things, it aligns with my values. So I'm then from that position working with my clients, my customers, and understanding what their issues and their problems are, helping them to find solutions. And then having that understanding that some people may say yes and some people may say no. And that empathy of, well, they may say no today, but they might say yes later. But the ego part of, well, I still believe in these things and I still believe in me. And I think that's really such a lovely way of framing it and describing it. I also think it's interesting looking at it with that harmony angle, because typically people, if they're thinking about things like this, they may again want to be black and white. And as we know, you actually are living mostly in a grey kind of space.
Yeah.
And life is very, very grey. So there may be elements of the company that you believe in, others you don't believe in. The same with yourself. You believe you're good at this, but you don't believe you're good at that. And the product, you might believe that the product's really great for these people, but not as great for those people. And so in that grey space, I think that that's where this harmony idea that we're talking about is really important, because it's not so much about absolutes, not about I'm 100% for this product, company, myself, whatever it might be, but, you know, I'm going to ignore all of my questions about things I might not agree with myself, product or company. It is more about acknowledging and bringing it into harmony. So I think that that's a beautiful way of actually framing it.
Yeah, thanks for that. And, you know, there's the old adage about selling, and, you know, it's a hell of a lot easier and cheaper to sell to an existing client than it is to a new client. And unless you're doing the right thing by them, unless you're building a strong relationship of respect and trust, you're not going to build on that business that you've already got with them. Very early in my career, I had a client in Queensland when I was managing an operation up there. They were one of the largest, I'll just say finance/insurance, without giving them away, companies in Queensland at the time. And I built a very strong relationship with the general manager, to the point where if any of my competitors went in and tried to sell them something, he would actually come back to me, and he wouldn't share the financials or the exact proposal, but he would share the overview of what they were proposing and ask my guidance. And if I thought that that was the best solution for him, I would tell him. And that just built an extremely strong relationship of trust and respect, which gave me a significant amount of business from that guy and from that company. And it also gave me an extremely good referral point for anyone else that I was working with in the future. So, you know, I had, again, coming back to that term harmonious, I had a very strong, harmonious, consistent, a pleasing arrangement, if you like, with that individual, because I was there to do the right thing by them, not just get in and close that deal. So, you know, I had the belief in my product, I had the belief in my company, I had the belief in myself, and I had the belief in my client. So my mindset was very positive whenever dealing with that individual.
And what a wonderful example again. And if people were wanting to reach out and talk to you some more about and maybe talk through other examples, what's the best way of getting hold of you?
Look, I think these days, Michelle, from a business perspective, everyone's on LinkedIn, and if they just look for me, Wayne Moloney, and that's Moloney, I will, as long as they don't just send out a blanket request with no acknowledgement of why or where they met me or where they saw me, I'll get back to everyone, and I love to engage with people and share thoughts and ideas on that. The other is through my website, waynemoloney.com, and they'll be able to contact me through there. And, you know, I really look forward to being able to share some of my thoughts with those that might want to.
Fabulous. And the final question for today, which I love asking people, is around what advice or suggestions might you give to your younger self?
Wow. Yeah, you know, I'm just reflecting on what we've been talking about, and I spoke right at the start about focus and planning. And I think if I went back and had my time again, I would be much more focused, and I would be putting in place stronger plans and working towards achieving them. But having said that, if I'd done that when I was much younger, I probably wouldn't have had as much fun as I did. So I would definitely do it, but I wouldn't be in a position where I would make that the be all and end all. It would be follow a path that you're going to enjoy. I think it was Steve Jobs that said, if you're doing something you enjoy, you'll never work another day in your life. And I think that'd be what it is. So get some focus, plan where you want to go, and enjoy it.
And what an enjoyable experience today has been, Wayne. It's been such an honour, such a privilege to have you on the show today. And I've loved talking to you about harmony. It's been really lovely. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Really enjoyed it, Michelle.
And to everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate, as I said at the start, all of the different messages about the different insights, helping you to create these wonderful tools and suggestions around creating a mindset for success. But for now, this episode is over, and I'd like to thank Wayne again and all of the other guests for coming on and sharing their incredible expertise and making the world a little bit better each day. And for now, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.